Welcome to the Wisconsin Department of Transportation's Estimate Documentation Report Preparation Training. As an effort to improve the state's engineering accuracy, this training was put together to address the importance of estimate documentation and the thought process behind a quality estimate. The Estimate Documentation Report is an important tool in creating an estimate and documenting the assumptions made when estimating the bid prices. It puts the designer's thoughts and assumptions on paper to allow others the ability to know what considerations were taken into account when creating the estimate. It's important to document the assumptions to show that effort was given. It acts like a checklist. The estimate documentation lets the reviewer know the designer followed all the steps in estimate development, and the reviewer can easily verify the designer's methods are consistent with the current estimating guidance. The documentation should also reflect modifications made by the project team during the final estimate development. By having a well-completed estimate documentation report, it makes the quality control review process much more efficient and effective. The Estimate Documentation Report template and example are provided on the estimating website, which is shown in this presentation. There will be one snapshot of a blank template and also a snapshot of the same section of the guidance document with the guidance in blue type. The rest of this presentation will be going over each section of the Estimate Documentation Report in depth. FDM 19-5-6 also provides guidance and intentions of each section. The first page of the Estimate Documentation Report cover must contain enough project information to give the reviewer a sense of project location and scope of the work. Most of the required fields in this report are click and fill fields. The project information fields are split into two distinct groups. The project information is on the left. The report information is on the right. For the project information section, the date field contains the date when the report was created. Complete the project information section with the construction ID, the route number or street name if it's a local project, the FIPS title and limits, the county or counties, PS&E or EPS&E date, and the let date. In the report information section, fill in the Estimate Document Prepared For field by choosing either Draft PS&E Plans or Final PS&E Plans. The Estimate Document Prepared By field will contain the name or the names of the individuals who prepared this report. Enter the preparer's email. In the Report Finished On field, enter the date the report was completed. For the Independent Reviewer field, enter the name of the independent reviewer. For tied projects, add other project IDs and necessary information. The next page is the executive summary, which consists of the description of proposed work and improvement type. In the description of proposed work, describe the proposed work and include factors that may impact the estimate. Make sure to include information about the project location that would affect the bidding, different types of pavement treatment and additional work outside of the pavement treatment, spot improvements, structure work, or other work that may require additional subcontractors. In the FIPS Concept Type Code section, enter all the FIPS Concept Type codes. These can be found in the project scoping information. Examples of these codes are for a bridge replacement or for a resurfacing project. Include all the codes associated with the project ID. Next in the estimate documentation is documenting the estimating tool parameters. First, document the estimator parameters that were used or most frequently used when obtaining bid item prices from estimator. If more than one combination of estimator parameters is used, document those parameters in the itemized documentation for those bid items. To document Bid Express and other tools parameters, list the tools along with the tool parameters that were used to obtain bid item prices. In the Item Level Documentation section, discuss how these tools and tool parameters were adjusted to obtain specific bid item prices. This section does not take the place of the itemized documentation. In the itemized documentation, the specific logic needs to be documented. The last estimating tool to be documented outside of the itemized documentation is Similar Projects. Similar projects are a great way to find comparable projects. Looking at past projects can provide valuable insight on how contractors will bid the total project. For projects to be similar, they need to be similar in scope and quantities. Projects should be close in location to the proposed project and have been built in the past few years. If the projects were built in prior years, the bid item prices should be inflated using the Fisher Chain Index to the current year dollars, or those projects should only be used to understand percentages and relationships between the bid items. It's always important to use current projects to verify unit prices to get the most recent trends. It's important to make sure the similar projects are in close location because project location does affect project costs, especially mobilization, due to travel time and product availability. One tool that is very helpful in finding similar projects is the Similar Projects tool found on the WisDOT estimating website. This section of the documentation should include a short list of comparable projects that were used to help determine unit prices on your project. See the example document for different ways to document similar projects. There are many different project characteristics that can influence the bid prices, and they should be reflected in the estimate. Factors such as schedule and traffic control restrictions, conflicts or coordination with outside entities, location of the project, and the bidding environmental all influence contract pricing. The intent of this section of the documentation is to document how these characteristics may influence the bid prices. It's more than just checking a box to represent the characteristics of the project. The design team should take each of these sections and think about how these different characteristics affect the project and bid prices. Many of these characteristics become intertwined. In some cases, they build on each other to increase the complexity of a project, while other times they may reflect the same risk. When developing an estimate, designers need to account for project risk and complexities. However, be careful not to adjust for multiple factors with the same underlying factor, such as increasing estimate prices for night work or accounting for work in multiple locations in the mobilization, and again in individual bid items. This would artificially inflate the estimate. Our goal is to come as close to the contractor's bid as possible. Let's look at some of the specific categories of project characteristics and how they may influence bid prices. Schedule. The more the contractor's construction schedule is dictated in the contract, the higher the bid prices will be. Ways of dictating the schedule are using interim completion times, completion dates, and liquidated damages. Seriously evaluate the need for restricting the contractor's work with final and interim completion dates and ensure the requirements are not already covered in the standard specifications. Schedule restrictions could require expedited work efforts, additional crews or equipment, and potential additional cost to the contractor if the schedule deadlines are not met. Evaluate the potential scheduling risks to the contractor and adjust your estimated unit prices to account for schedule restrictions. Be careful not to double dip on increasing the project estimate to take into account the scheduling restrictions. If bid items are needed to be completed at night or require accelerated construction, account for this in the bid item's prices or mobilization. Do not add in both areas. Traffic control. When considering which bid items may impact traffic control characteristics, think about work operations that will be impacted by traffic control staging and/or restrictions. It's not so much the price of the traffic control devices that are influenced, but the prices for the work operations that may have production slowed down or accelerated because traffic does not have to be accommodated and the roadway is closed. Consider if contractor equipment or trucks need to move among traffic. Also consider if the work area is free of traffic disruptions. Does equipment need to cross traffic? Do trucks need to wait in line at temporary signals or flaggers before getting to a work zone? If the traffic control and staging allow long production runs, contractors can have high production rates and lower unit prices, while multiple stages and working under traffic might cause the project to have short production runs, low production rates, and higher unit prices. The number of traffic control stages and restriction to the work that can be done in specific stages can also influence bid prices. The more flexibility the contractor has to determine the progression of work, the lower the bid prices tend to be. Construction conflicts. The potential for conflicts during the project can influence bid prices. For example, utility conflicts, coordination with other agencies for monitoring, or having to allow separate work to be done can present risk to contractors when developing bids and will typically be reflected in contract prices. Utilities conflicts could be overhead, or underground utilities may need to be worked around or be moved by others during construction. Monitoring could involve environmentally sensitive areas, hazardous materials, or archaeological sites. Other coordination may include the contractor having to provide time for others to review or improve an installation, or allow a window of time for others to perform work before the contract work can proceed. This could translate into schedule restrictions, as already mentioned, that could result in higher prices. Other considerations include logistics and bidding environment. Logistics of a project may be the location in relation to pits or other material sources, the number of locations within a contact, how much space is available for on-site storage of equipment or materials, how much space there is to work within, or whether the project is in an urban or rural setting. The farther away or harder it is to get materials to a project, the more expensive things can be. Additionally, the bidding environment can also result in higher or lower than average prices. The month a project is let, number of bidders, similar work in the area, size of the contract, material availability can all influence bid prices. FDM 19.5 Attachment 5.1 provides information on historical letting results for specific improvement types. The list of project characteristics is not all-inclusive. If there are other things that are affecting your project document, check the Other box and describe the situation you have on your project. Projects are all different in their own way. It's important to document those differences and think about how they will affect the bid prices. Item-level documentation is an important part of the estimate documentation. The itemized documentation is the core of the estimate documentation. It justifies and explains why a unit price was chosen. This part of the estimate documentation shows the effort and logic behind the why. It's important to fully explain and put thoughts onto paper. For additional information, item-level documentation is also covered in FDM 19-5-6 Item-Level Documentation. The documentation should cover the thought process as described in 19-5-5 and how all the different areas that were previously discussed affect the bid item price. Document what factors were considered when selecting the price and answering the question why a price was chosen when creating the estimate as you go, rather than at the end trying to recall all the thoughts and reasoning to document the prices. Examples of the item-level documentation are provided on the estimate development sites. Itemized documentation is broken down into significant items and not significant items. Additionally, lump sum, each, and SPV type of bid items need additional information to explain all the assumptions made to create the estimate. These are historically the hardest bid items to estimate accurately. Significant items require the most documentation. Significant items have the greatest influences on estimate accuracy. Therefore, more time and effort need to be focused on determining the unit cost for these items using multiple sources. For all other items, the level of effort and documentation required should be relative to their importance to the overall project costs. Lump sum/each bid items are hard to estimate. Mobilization and traffic control projects are two of the hardest ones to estimate. For these items, they are based off a percentage of the overall estimate. Designers need to document the percentage and why they chose the percentage. For lump sum/each items, make sure to document if the bid item will include things not in the standardized bid item and adjust the unit prices accordingly and explain. SPVs are hard to estimate because it's hard to find past projects for comparison. Even if the SPVs have the same or very similar names, the designer needs to compare their SPV to the other projects to see if they are similar. Titles of SPVs can be misleading. When prices are based from previous projects and then modified, designers must document why they are changing the prices, what makes the SPVs similar, and what makes them different, and why those differences should change the unit prices. A bid item with small overall price for the project will have minimal effects on the overall estimate accuracy. However, the small bid items are still important. If all the small bid items are off, it can cause the overall estimate accuracy to be off. Therefore, effort still needs to be done on creating these unit prices, but the effort does not have to be as great as significant items. The last part of the estimate documentation report is the attachments. Add different types of attachments, such as estimator printout with notes, Q2P spreadsheets, BidX printouts, and any other documentation that supports your assumptions. Attachments are important because they allow others to recreate your logic in searches if a question is asked on why a bid item was estimated the way it was. Thank you for watching this training on estimate documentation reports. Hopefully, this will further your understanding of the importance of the estimate documentation report and how to better use the report to make a quality estimate for your project. The estimate documentation report is reviewed at times by people outside of the region. There are times when central office personnel will dig through project files looking for the estimate documentation report and want to know project characteristics and what was taken into consideration when creating these estimated prices. If you have any questions, please ask your WisDOT project managers, region design quality assurance engineers, or the statewide estimating engineer.